You know that hot flash of panic when you hit reply all by mistake or trip on a perfectly flat sidewalk? Your stomach drops, your heart rate spikes, and your brain screams that you messed up. In those moments, our brains usually do one of two things. We either freeze up entirely, or we start beating ourselves up over how clumsy or careless we were. Either way, we lose our grip on the situation and struggle to recover. Psychologists actually have a tool designed specifically to trigger those exact micro-failures in a lab setting. It's called the Stroop task. If you take this test, your goal is to say the color of the ink out loud, but ignore the word itself. Because you've spent your entire life reading automatically, your brain desperately wants to read the text. Forcing yourself to suppress that impulse and name the color requires immense cognitive effort, and almost everyone slips up. But researchers have identified one group that consistently makes fewer errors on this task than the general population: experienced meditators. Researchers at the University of Toronto wanted to know why. So they brought experienced meditators into the lab, hooked them up to an EEG to measure their brainwaves, and watched exactly what happened inside their heads the moment they made a mistake. The data showed that these meditators aren't succeeding because they have an unbreakable monk-like focus. They perform better because of an unusual electrical spike that fires exactly 100 milliseconds after they slip up. Deep inside your brain is a structure called the anterior cingulate cortex. Think of it as your internal performance monitor. It constantly compares what you intend to do against what you actually do. When the two don't match, it fires an alert. This chart tracks that electrical activity over time. The flat line is normal brain function. But the moment you make an error, the brain generates a subconscious, automatic oops signal called the error-related negativity, or ERN. It registers as this sharp downward spike, hitting exactly at the 100 millisecond mark. The researchers assumed that calm, Zen meditators would show a smaller spike, brushing off the mistake. But the exact opposite happened. When meditators made an error, their alarm rang significantly louder. That deep drop means that experienced meditators actually register the distress of an error faster and more intensely than the average person does. But the crucial difference happens a fraction of a second later. Around 200 milliseconds, a normal brain enters the conscious phase. We realize the error, judge ourselves, and dwell on it. That wavy hump right there is the electrical signature of rumination. Look at the meditator's line. That rumination phase never happens. They acknowledge the error instantly, take the hit, and then immediately drop the psychological baggage, returning straight back to a neutral state. This is how they maintain such high levels of cognitive control. They don't avoid the pain of a mistake. They let the alarm ring loudly so they can instantly course correct without getting trapped in a cycle of self-doubt. Knowing how the brain fires is one thing, but the researchers needed to find out what specific behavioral habit was rewiring the meditators' brains to act this way. They broke mindfulness down into two measurable components: present moment awareness, which is the act of noticing your thoughts, and emotional acceptance, which is letting yourself feel unpleasant emotions without fighting them. When they ran the numbers, the results were highly unexpected. A participant's ability to stay focused in the present moment had zero correlation with their ability to catch mistakes and perform better on the test. Instead, the data pointed entirely to emotional acceptance. The people who were willing to sit with negative feelings rather than trying to distract themselves or suppress the discomfort were the only ones with a stronger ERN alarm and superior executive control. The study suggests that executive control, our ability to override impulses and stay on task, scales with how effectively we process negative emotions. Popular culture often paints meditation as a way to become detached, turning people into perfectly calm, unfeeling robots, completely insulated from stress. This flowchart illustrates what the science actually proves. Meditation builds emotional acceptance. That acceptance amplifies the brain's early detection system for errors, which results in sharper, faster behavioral control. Whether you are matching colors and words on a screen in a lab, scrambling to recover from a stumbled sentence during a major presentation, or realizing you forgot a critical deadline, the underlying biology is exactly the same. You can try to force yourself to pay better attention, or download every productivity app on the market, but those tactics will fail if you remain terrified of the negative feelings that follow a mistake. True self-control requires emotional bravery. You have to be willing to feel the sharp sting of failure fully,